Okay, so this clip has been circulating around the internet of Judge Joe Brown on the Art of Dialogue YouTube channel, and it's kind of like an interview style channel in the vein of, let's say, Vlad TV. Some people compare it to that, or vice versa. And this was an unreleased clip because I remember when his interview segments went viral around the time of the lead up to the 2024 election. But yeah, they've been putting out other clips that were unreleased from that full interview. And one segment that's been making the rounds on Shade Room, and some people sent it to me, was his conversation about Tyler Perry and his contribution to the emasculation of manhood, and a question as to whether or not he likes manhood. And I'm not getting into the specifics of that, but I wanted to talk about this clip, and I'll leave a link to I always like to give full context, and the clip from the Art of Dialogue is about 5.5 minutes. I would suggest looking at that full clip, then coming back to this video for my thoughts. But I really do think it's an interesting topic of discussion, because Joe doesn't just focus in on Tyler. He talks about how, in terms of being a cog in the machine, he's only one of many directors, producers, writers in the industry who contribute to, not really having a lot of strong male figures in his works. And I really had to think about, a lot of the shows and movies from recent years. I mean, yeah, there's the discussion of Medea, but I really just wanted to focus on what the general public has been absorbing, from, the Viacom era, basically all of his BET shows to the president. I really had a hard time trying to just pinpoint at least 5 strong black male figures within his shows, because more often than not, men are depicted as villains, lazy, you can't depend on them. Women are always in the right. Men are always, contributing to the downtrodden nature of women, and this, that, and the third. I mean, it really is sad to think about. But I really wanted to kind of connect this to Divorced Sisters, which that will be a separate video in itself. But there is, okay, if you take away the hype of the fans of both LaToya and Kadeen, it's really a lot of animosity towards the show before it's even dropped, which is June 10th is when it finally drops on BET+. My take is the fact that a lot of people are pointing out how, yet again, it seems like, Tyler giving us another show where you have these black women going through it, and they're all divorced, and they're all, upset with men, and men are lazy, and men, they use me, and this, that, and the third, and there's a lack of accountability. I feel like it's not really just Tyler, but it's like what Judge Joe Brown said, how it's kind of like with Charlie Brown. It just feels weird saying Charlie or Joe. You got to say the whole title. But you really got to look at how the industry is nowadays, where men really can't be depicted as men. I know somebody in the comments of that video said, I mean, yeah, look at the Equalizer series, where you have Queen Latifah, who's a black woman who is a lesbian in real life, portraying someone who is typically in a male role. I mean, there are a lot of discussions to be had about something like that, about how, like, for example, a live action Disney films, where more often than not, you look at how these Disney princesses who had like a quote unquote status quo to fulfill, but now all of a sudden they're kick-ass female warriors who don't need a man to save them, and it just flops at the box office. I think a lot of outlets have been saying that the latest being the Snow White film was such a bad flop that they're going to put a hold on any new live action movies that aren't currently in development. I know the Lilo and Stitch one is supposed to come out. I can literally count the number of live action films I've watched. Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, I actually went to the theater to see. I know there was a third one I think I watched, but that was it. I can't remember what it is for the life of me. But Lilo and Stitch, I will be watching that because I love Stitch. But yeah, when it comes to the Tyler Perry stuff, yeah, with the Medeas and stuff like that, and I don't know. If you watch my Beyond the Gates content on my backup channel, you know that in a couple of my more recent reviews, I talked about how Martin has been surprising me because of how sympathetic he's been to his recently discovered half sister Eva. And I said that one of the reasons he might be trying to connect to her is the fact that, similar to her being an outcast now, he dealt with the same thing after, he came out when he was in high school, dealing with being an outcast and whatnot. And I was thinking to myself that the difference between, because, hey, I always make a point to say I'm not LGBTQ and I can't relate to the community, but when comparing the way that a person or people from that specific walk of life are depicted in a Tyler Perry production versus a non-Tyler Perry production, it's night and day. Because when I look at Beyond the Gates, when I see Martin, when I see Smitty, I don't see characters defined by their sexuality. I just see two characters. They're people first. Their sexuality is second, if not third or fourth, because they're parents and they deal with all sorts of storylines, that put a strain on their relationship and things like that, especially with Martin and his secrets. But when I look at a Tyler Perry production, if there's a gay or flamboyant character, that's literally who they are. And a lot of people from the said community have commented on my video saying like they don't like the way Maurice is written, or even going back to the haves and the have-nots. When you look at how gay people are written, they're usually overly flamboyant, incredibly disrespectful, rude, antagonistic, and that's not who we are, as the comments would say. And as a result, it almost seems like a mockery, considering how Tyler has openly supported, the community and has done stuff and whatnot. So I don't know. It's just an interesting discussion to be had, and I'm glad the discussion is being, talked about. And this isn't, and I love how the comments pretty much, well, not all of them, obviously when you have a clip like this going viral, you'll have the nasty comments and you have the understanding comments. And the thing about it is, this has nothing to do with his charitable acts, the fact that he's keeping black people employed and things of that nature, but it is a conversation of, when you look at how manhood is being slowly chipped away at in the media, most of Tyler Perry's content, not all, most of it kind of contributes to this ongoing saga. That's why I did like Bruh for the most part, because it just felt so good as a straight black man to have a show starring 4 straight black men. Greg is a question mark because of the whole trans storyline, but whatever. But yeah, it just felt good to have a show like that, and yet that show got kicked to the wayside in favor of yet more shows that are primarily female driven, at the cost of the male characters being depicted as buffoons, evil, conniving, unfaithful, and the list goes on. So yeah, to some extent, I do agree with what Judge Joe Brown was saying. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.